What's up? So, I want to talk tonight a little bit about a very important topic, which is the difference between test blind and test optional. So, test blind is actually a pretty recent term to come about, and Caltech, in just recent days, in June 2020, has popularized it because they have announced for the 2020 2021 and the 2021 2022 admission cycles at Caltech, the university is going to now be test blind, which means they will not look at SAT or ACT scores if submitted to Caltech for admissions purposes. They just won't look at them. They won't consider them. They won't look at them when determining whether or not to accept freshman applicants. They won't consider any test scores related to the SAT or the ACT for admissions purposes. Whereas test optional is the very popularized term that has been around for years now and describes colleges that do not require SAT or ACT scores in order to be considered for freshman, in most cases, admission to that college or university. And so many colleges in recent months, again, this is being filmed in June 2020, have gone test optional in response, they say, to the coronavirus and to help students out because several months of test dates were canceled. Of course, colleges are not doing it to help students out. They are doing it because they are petrified that their application numbers are going to be down, and therefore they are going to have to accept larger percentages of the number of students who apply, and therefore they will appear to be, to the layman, far less selective. And so what they're doing, of course, is reacting to that, and some colleges are in desperate need of applicants, and they want to say, we're not going to consider test scores because you can still get in without the SAT or ACT. So just today, University of Delaware has announced they're going to go test optional, whoop-de-doo. And of course, even big name schools like, Penn have gone test optional, Tulane, etc., have gone test optional. And again, that's wonderful, but beware, buyer beware. Just because a college is test optional does not mean you should not submit strong SAT or ACT scores to that college. So if you have a 1490 on the SAT and you're applying in fall 2020, early decision to Penn, submit the SAT score. It's a great SAT score. Penn will like to see it. It will help your chances of admission. It can't hurt it. That's for sure. So if you get a 34 on the ACT, what, you're not going to submit it to Miami? You're not going to submit it to Tulane just because they're test optional? No, all those colleges will still look at strong test scores. So submit them to those colleges if you can earn them on the SAT or ACT during this period of time when colleges are test optional. Some may never go test required again, but some likely will require some form of a test again. Whether or not will be the ACT or ACT, time will tell, SAT or ACT. But in response to the pandemic, they're doing this to obviously protect themselves first, appear for PR reasons to care for students second. But that's, of course, what they're saying is their first priority. Meanwhile, they're still asking you to pay $70,000 a year in order to have the honor potentially of going to college on Zoom. So that's a whole other story for another day. But again, if you are lucky enough to apply to a test blind school, and only test blind schools, then you really can rest assured that you don't need to take the SAT or ACT. Whereas if you are applying to highly selective test optional schools, aim for 1500 or higher, aim for 1450 or higher, do whatever you can on the SAT and do whatever you can to get a 32 or higher on the ACT still, and submit those babies to those colleges, because as long as they're optional and not blind, they will still consider strong SAT or ACT scores a strong and compelling part of an overall holistic, as many of these colleges call it, application file to consider for admission. So do yourself a favor and always take advantage of submitting whatever could help you to get into whatever college you're applying to, and don't confuse test optional with test blind. Caltech's gone test blind. Many more colleges, maybe by the time you see this video, will have gone test blind. Whoop-de-doo again, that's great. I'm not a fan of test blind or test optional schools generally for a whole host of other reasons, which is another video for another day. And we can talk about that another time. But If you are a fan of colleges that are test optional or test blind, good for you. But again, do not confuse test blind and test optional, because that could get you into big trouble, especially if you were capable of earning a strong SAT or ACT score. So until next time, I'll see you. Bye.